Dear Annie, I want to tell you a true story today, while it's fresh in my mind, of a great friend I once had, an Irishman, whose memory I pass along in the hope that you'll be as inspired by him as I was.
The wind is full of memories that murmur and sigh. Hills rise in the foaming grass of Clare below the cold moon's eye. But you should come and see them now when they are on fire and running with the shades of glory.
Deep and subtle is the Irish heart, the birthright of the land of the poets and saints and martyrs. Daniel Joseph Bourke.
B-O-U-R-K-E, not B-U-R-K-E. It's the same name, but I spell it that way my father did before me. That's as good a reason as any.
Daniel Joseph Bourke, B-O-U-R-K-E, was born into the lush tradition of Ireland, where the poet, Yeats, and the saint, Patrick, were in the air that he breathed.
I am going to the...
He inhaled greatly in the fall of 1934 when he boarded a boat at County Cork. A few days later, he exhaled the spirit of the poets, laced with his own inimitable style when he landed in Savannah.
The Lord sent me here, and I'm happy he did.
For the next 64 years, Savannah was his pulpit, as he captivated his flock with his steadfast faith, gentle brogue, and ready wit, even into his 88th year.
I have still a title down there, Promoter of Justice, only they don't give me any justice to promote recently.
In 1959, 25 years into his sojourn in Savannah, he was one of 5 priests elevated to the position of Monsignor, an honorary title of respect in the Catholic Church.
But I remember, too, that all the Irish peasants are of the race of kings.
But in the 1980s, a strange transformation took place. As Monsignor Bourke stopped being a Monsignor, of which there are thousands, and became the Monsignor, of which henceforth, now and forever, for you and me, Annie, there will be only one. On this rock will I build my church. That's what Christ said to St. Peter 2,000 years ago. I wonder whether the same words were whispered to Daniel Joseph Bourke, the rock upon which the Savannah Catholic Church was built in the 20th century. Put yourself in his mind, Annie, a 24-year-old, just a boy, really, landing in Depression-era Savannah. A large, if not prosperous, Irish community awaited Father Bourke here, themselves children of refugees who had fled the potato famine of the mid-1800s.
14,000 in the city of Savannah. And over 3,000 of those were Irish, not just of Irish descent, born in Ireland.
Savannah wasn't his first choice, or even his choice at all.
I happened, perhaps accidentally, to join up for Savannah.
He had applied to the Diocese of Spokane, but the harsh winters discouraged his appointment.
Then we had to go through the present, a very wise old man, Father O'Donnell. And he looked me up and down. He wasn't a bit encouraging. He said, I will not recommend you. And I said, why, Father? He looked me up and down again and said, you're just too frail.
England, too, was a possibility. But Father Bourke, as much an Irish Republican then as on his death, pleaded not to be sent into His Majesty's service.
So he said, how about Liverpool? And I said, Father, I do not want to go to England. Many nice English people whom I know nothing against. But I was semaphore at the college, and I did not want to go to be under the crowd for the rest of my life.
So the Diocese of Savannah it was for the young priest, in whose service he would spend the next 64 years and exhaust 7 different bishops.
Some bishops wilt a little under it, and From being healthy, strong men, they become rather delicate.
His last bishop, Bishop Boland, is another happy Irishman and a student of the Monsignor. I'll take you to meet him one day, Annie. You'll like him, because he has many of the same qualities that made everyone love Monsignor.
Even before he was a priest, he was a great human being. And I found that in his storytelling and how he could kind of smile at himself, and when something odd happened to him, he would enjoy it as much as the people who witnessed it. So in that sense, he was of great appeal because his humanity was always very evident anytime you talked with him. Like, there was nothing pious about Monsignor Bourke or straight-laced. He enjoyed a joke, he enjoyed people.
To the Diocese of Savannah came all that spirit in the person of young Father Bourke. The vivid recollection of a September 1934 morning, his first in Savannah, left no doubt that Monsignor would one day proclaim himself to be a Savannian.
And at Abercorn, turning and sing the beautiful French Gothic Cathedral, I didn't expect to see anything like that in the city. And when I found a strong Catholic spirit amongst the descendants of the Irish who were here, this really fascinated me.
From the beginning, his gift for people and the force of his personality shone through, as he quickly grasped the uniqueness of Savannah and its people.
There was a working agreement between various groups in Savannah. Certain jobs were sacred to the crackers. Crackers meant native Georgian. It could even mean, in a general sense, Protestant Georgian. To the Jews, they had their own group. They had their jobs too. And then the Irish. The Irish meant Catholic. In those days, you could come from Naples or Berlin or London town, but if you lived in Savannah and you were a Catholic, you were called an Irishman.
To endear himself to his flock, he used to great effect a twinkle in his eye, a melody in his voice, and every once in a while, when pressed, a little harmless deception.
And when there'd be a big gathering of people, and they'd tip him off as to who some people were, that he wasn't sure who they were. But he would also use this technique to great value, that someone would come up and he'd say, "Now, my dear, what's your name?" And they'd say, "Murphy." "Oh, I know it's Murphy. It's your first name I can't remember." And he'd also reverse that. "Mary." "Oh, I know you're Mary. It's your family name I've forgotten, you know." And they would go away delighted with themselves.
I like the young. I respect the old. But I don't mix so much with the old. I think the same as they do. And I want to try and keep young by mixing with younger people.
The keen mind was joined to an energetic spirit in Monsignor Bourke. Into his 88th year, he ran circles around younger men. But he didn't, as this picture implies, literally build Blessed Sacrament Church. Instead, he may have been the first person to recognize the value of the photo op.
Now, we were talking about you laying the bricks there, you know, and you said that the bricklayers had to take them down and relay them.
I'm afraid they may have had.
So why would you think that? You're not much of a bricklayer yourself.
No, I'd never laid bricks before.
But you have.
But I wanted to impress my Irish friends, especially my cousins back in Ireland, that I was doing missionary work in the United States, even to the helping to build the churches physically.
Isn't that just marvelous?
God gave the Irish the ability to tell a story, Annie, and to Monsignor Bourke he gave a double dose. Listen as he recalls D-Day at Blessed Sacrament, the critical moment of World War II.
The morning or day of the invasion of Normandy. For some reason, I was awakened very early that morning, probably about 5 o'clock in the morning, and the radio in my room was on. I was a bit confused at first, and then I realized that the correspondents were recording the invasion. They must have been walking around among the troops, because you could hear the movements and the calls, the orders being given. And I could even hear the water that was around the boats of the landing, lapping the side of the boats. I could hear all of that. And I got up, and I found that we had left the church here at Blessed Sacrament open the night before. We usually close the church, and there were already people in the church praying, waiting for Mass, lighting votive lights, petitioning the Lord for the sake of their relatives who they believed were engaged in the undertaking.
Today, Lord, in this hallowed place, we are a remembering people. We remember the Irish men and women of the past. May they rest in peace. We remember the men and women of the present. May they contribute to the remembering well of our community in this day and age, so that it will become the history and foundation of the future generations of our people, so that when they, in future days, gather around this ancient symbol, they will remember us with love and respect.
He was a traditionalist, Annie. He believed in the old land and the old faith and the old cause. He also believed in St. Patrick's Day. Not the St. Patrick's Day on River Street.
I've never gone down to the riverfront on St. Patrick's Day. I think it's a safe place for me to keep away from.
But the St. Patrick's Day that stretches back 174 years into Savannah history, led by a Grand Marshal of unquestioned integrity, who on March 17th is the most honored man in all the land.
In the city of Savannah, for a man of Irish descent, it seems to be the be-all and the end-all of existence.
All right, look this way at me.
In the mid-90s, among Savannah's Irish, a movement to make Monsignor Bourke Grand Marshal began to gather force.
Now we want to treat him real good, sir, because when we get to the pearly gates, we want to see that he's standing behind the good Lord saying, yeah, let that one in, he'll be all right.
The Monsignor, in his mid-80s, had thoughts on the subject.
I said, that'd be nice, but if it's going to happen, it better happen soon.
The problem was that Monsignor refused to campaign, refused to politic. He would be the Grand Marshal only if he were unopposed and elected unanimously. The St. Patrick's Day Parade Committee asked for a letter from him explaining his position. Here is what he wrote.
That's right, that's right. My dear members of the St. Patrick's Day Parade Committee, a number of members of the Parade Committee have approached me saying they would like me to be the Grand Marshal of this year's parade. Such an honor would, of course, bring joy to the heart of any Savannah Catholic Irishman. While a young student at All Hallows Seminary in Dublin, I became affiliated with the Diocese of Savannah. At the time, I knew very little about Savannah or Georgia. Looking back over the years, I realized what a good decision I made. God has indeed blessed me in my choice. I was ordained to the priesthood on June the 24th, 1934. I am by far the longest serving priest of the diocese, going on 63 years. They have been happy years. I fell in love with the city of Savannah on that September morning of 1934, when I alighted from the train at the Union Station. My love has grown throughout the years, strengthened, no doubt, by the number of Savannans so proud of their Irish lineage. A good friend of mine recently asked me if I had considered going home since I am officially retired. He laughed and agreed with my reply. It was, sure I am at home. I have been in Georgia for nigh 63 years and spent 33 years of them in Savannah. I expect to die in Savannah. I expect my bones to wait in Savannah's Catholic cemetery, the resurrection. I am a Savannian. If you choose me as the Grand Marshal, I will be glad and grateful. But in any case, let us plan for a St. Patrick's Day worthy of the holy man of God who left his native land and became the greatest Irishman of all time, St. Patrick.
That was his letter, Annie. that said more about who he was than I could ever tell you. And it led him to the biggest day of his life.
Good morning. Good to see you. Oh, pretty well. It's a lovely day. Good. The Lord is blessing us.
There's some things I can't explain to you, Annie. You just have to live them or see them for yourself. To be Grand Marshal of the St. Patrick's Day Parade, if you're Savannah Irish, is unlike any other honor in life.
Walking on air, I don't know.
In late February of 1997, the St. Patrick's Day Parade Committee unanimously elected Monsignor Bourke Grand Marshal in 8 minutes flat.
It overwhelms me that I've lived to see this day, that I've been Marshal of the Savannah St. Patrick's Day Parade.
It was the crown jewel in a lifetime of accomplishment. From City Council to the state capitol in Atlanta, Monsignor strode proudly, dignity and easy smile intact wherever he went, even as Georgia's most powerful celebrated him.
I come before you as a Southern boy. I was born in Southern Ireland.
But he saved the best for his formal investiture at the Hilton, Annie.
Bourke is our man. We represent the whole Irish land.
There, St. Vincent's Chorus sang, "Bourke is our man."
Young ladies, you're superb. I've never heard you, to my mind, as good.
And Bishop Boland took liberties with Catholic hierarchy by making a first ever interim appointment.
And I will do the next best thing by making use of virtual reality. And I hereby designate you the Bishop of Savannah and Chatham County between now and midnight of March the 17th, 1900.
But the day clearly belonged to the Monsignor as he rose to the occasion and delivered the speech of his life.
The whole thing is sort of a dream. It started a week or so ago when Dr. Harris proposed me to be the Grand Marshal. When he was finished, I was wondering what he was talking about.
So here they are,
There's the
and here
Monsignor.
is Monsignor right now.
St. Patrick's Day was almost anticlimactic, Annie, with all that had gone on before. But again, Monsignor found a way to seize another moment and define the spirit of the 1997 parade.
What message do you have on behalf of the church and Savannah for all these people out here who are cheering you on today?
Follow the example of St. Patrick. Pray and do penance for your sins. I march also for the glory of America. I'm proud to be an Irish citizen.
The sense of that moment could have belonged to only one man.
B-O-U-R-K-E. I spell it that way my father did before me. That's as good a reason as any.
He was about to say Mass one morning, Annie, when he fell and hit his head, an injury that ultimately took his life. The funeral Mass was packed, and Bishop Boland found words to express the doubt, sorrow, and faith that we all had.
Hear, O Lord, the voice of Monsignor Bourke. Why did you let him fall? Were you present in his hour of need? Did you know we needed his strength and witness? He sang your praises better than we did. He defended your church with all his might. Give back to us, give him back to us for one more week. Give us another chance to say goodbye. Let us say thank you before he goes.
I worked in television in those days, Annie, so I was able to spend many hours talking to the Monsignor. Whenever I'd end an interview, I'd always ask if there was anything else he'd like to say, or any question that I hadn't asked that he wanted to answer. Listen closely, and you'll hear me ask that here. I think that's it.
Probably.
Think of anything else?
When you go away, Craig, I think of many things.
Me too, Monsignor. As for me, the time is here for me to leave this life. I've done my best in the race. I've run the full distance, and I've kept the faith. And now there is waiting for me the victory prize of being put right with God, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give me on that day. And not only to me, but to all those who wait with love for him to appear.
May God, through Mary and Patrick, bless you all. Thank you, thank you.
And today, the day after Halloween, is All Saints' Day in the traditional Christian churches, a fitting occasion for our special on Monsignor Bourke coming up on 6:30. Greg Carney has this preview.
Mercer, this is the story of the coolest man I've ever known, Monsignor Daniel Bourke. A unique combination of wit and wisdom wrapped in an Irish lilt and unbelievable energy when he passed away at age 88. About 15 years ago, I met him and started saving the interviews you'll see tonight at 6:30. It isn't so much the story of a priest as it is the twinkle in his eye. The Monsignor, coming up at 6:30. Mercer?
Thanks, Craig. Again, that's at 6:30 right after the news. There's still more to come. Don't change the channel. A musical tribute to Halloween has these folks playing some spooky tunes. But first, how to protect yourself against an enemy you can't see or hear.
John Hersey, a journalist, spent several months with the Marines at Guadalcanal and bore their challenges about the war and their plight. Where was the Army, they asked, or MacArthur? What about the world-beating P-47s they'd heard so much about, or the Navy's PT boats? Were they going to be left holding the bag like those poor suckers in the Philippines? At length, the complaining faded, and Hersey asked his question. What were they fighting for? Today, here in this valley, he asked the men, what are you fighting for? Quiet enveloped the Marines. His eyes wandered, pondering their bothered memories. They didn't answer for what seemed a long time. Then one of them spoke, wrote Hersey, but not to me. He spoke to the others out of their shared experience. Jesus, he whispered, what I'd give for a piece of blueberry pie.
Oh, beautiful, far heroes proved in liberating strife. Who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. America, America, make God thy gold refine, till all success be nobleness, and ever again divine. And you know, when I was in school, we used to sing it something like this. Listen here. Oh, beautiful, far spacious skies, far amber waves of grain, far purple mountain majesties,